the obtaining of statement from key witnesses identified above.
Would you say the investigation has stagnated at this stage? That's my sense when I go through what you narrate about this specific case. Would you say the investigation has stagnated, or would you say you still have leads? I don't want you to tell us what those leads are if you do have them, but it seems to me the investigation has stagnated. Some people have disappeared, people that you would have loved to take statements from, and one that is available and whose statement you would like to obtain is refusing to give you that statement. So it's on that basis that I'm asking you, would you say the investigation has stagnated?
I will agree with you, but I hope to persuade this witness, which I believe at a later stage you will comply. Currently he is afraid. I don't want to lie. To communicate with him, I communicate with him. He says he's afraid of the police. The question will be, hey, Magagula, you know the police, they will kill me. Then I don't want to be in that position. So I'm trying to show him that there is witness protection, all those type of resources that the state have to, that they can provide him with to be safe. So currently it is stagnated, it is not moving.
Besides offering witness protection, are there any other means of obtaining a statement from a recalcitrant would-be witness?
I do have a plan which, if I can reveal it, everyone is listening, the police officers will be knowing how Magagula is going to handle this matter. And then
my focus, and by no means imputing impropriety on you, but my question was about lawful means. So are you saying you do have lawful means?
Yeah, it is a lawful, it is a lawful one, 100%, where the witness will be comfortable and they won't be forced, it will be voluntary.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Magagula.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner.
Mr. Magagula, my concern is this case is from February 2023 and it's now February 2026. I don't know, maybe I see it differently. The statements you have from the owner and the truck driver and the two statements from the EMPD officers and the failure to use proper documents to release the property. And you say the manner in which it was impounded was also improper, how it was not recorded in the subs 13. Are those facts not sufficient to make recommendations of a disciplinary nature? Because I'm concerned that if you do manage to persuade this other witness to give you a statement, and it's now 2018, 5 years after the event happened, 26. It will be difficult to, prosecute people because memory fades, documents go missing, people pass on in the process, the police officers retire in the process. In fact, in the case of Stalls, we are told that at the end of January 2025, she retired from EMPD. So do you not take those things into consideration, and do you not say, I know my investigation is not 100% complete, but I'm satisfied that with the 75% that I have, disciplinary proceedings can be instituted? Do you not look at it that way?
In terms of the let me start with the DPP. The best way, as things stand, we have a prima facie case where I can start with the Director of Public Prosecution, making an inroad in the Director of Public Prosecution to find which charges I can prefer, because these members here, if you look at them, they want to run away. The manner, their modus operandi, because the case was registered as theft of the truck. Now, the truck, when you look at the transaction, it is not stolen, because at the end of the day, they have returned the truck to EMPD. So they wanted to kill that charge of a truck. They were very, very clever on that, but it's not cleverness. Now, they have a second problem. The truck was moving in good condition, and it was intended to go to Mpumalanga, Akonuk, which is about 500 kilometers from Patfontein. So it shows that the truck was in working condition. 3 days after the owner received the message that the truck is in EMPD pound, there is another charge now, which is then theft out of motor vehicle. Some parts of the truck on its own, some part were stolen. The owner has to go and buy parts of the truck to put it in order for the truck to be able to be drivable again.
Even diesel, as I read this.
There is a
900
part,
liters.
diesel also, but there are parts of the truck. There are parts of the truck that were stolen there. So it's theft out of motor vehicle, not theft of the truck, because that one they tried to make a U-turn, because theft, it will be to deprive the lawful owner of his property permanently. So here they can come and say, we didn't want to deprive him permanently. We booked the truck in the pound. So in terms of that, I'll look at that area of that charge of theft out of motor vehicle. We have another challenge. I have another challenge in terms of the charges. Their aim, the intention of the officers was not about the truck. It was about the property that was inside the truck. The property worth more than 1 million rand. That property that was stolen there, it was not recovered. They allege that they gave the lawful owner somewhere. The importance of the witness which hired the truck owner to transport these goods. That statement is very, very important in that aspect.
I'll take you back to your answer, I think, to my last question. How soon do you intend to use the means that you referred to? You said you do have other lawful means to obtain the outstanding statement. By when will you do that?
In the next 4 weeks.
Why that long?
I will be revealing that strategy.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Magagula, this is a follow-up on Commissioner Khumalo, but slightly different. You have listed certain shortcomings. For example, the use of the SAP 299 document. You say they should not have, it's a wrong document to have used, but also it should not be in their possession because it's not an EMPD document.
Yes.
That's one. Just keep note of this list. You've got that. And then there is the release of the goods according to stalls. The goods were released to an owner, but there's no record of who that person is. It just says the owner. You say that there was no case opened for impounding the truck and trailer. You also say there was no location, no specified location where the goods were released. And then I want to add to that list that there is no record, a record of the goods being released. We've got a statement saying the goods being impounded and then released, which I expect would happen if the police come into possession of any matter. They would record it properly. This is what they received, and then this is what they released and who they released it to. But that list of things that were not done and which you record in your statement seem to me not to, for them to be provable or to constitute charges for disciplinary purposes and to be proved as misconduct does not depend on a complainant statement. It's a matter that you have on record, and employees could be charged on that without even having a complainant present.
Yes.
A complainant as in the owner of the truck and the owner of the goods. Having said that, it seems to me then that the IPID should be able, or should have been able, and should still be able to make a recommendation to the EMPD to discipline on just these issues. Why has that not happened? Why have you not drawn conclusions on these lines that there's been an infraction of this and that and that and that shortcomings on Stolz's own statement? Here are the shortcomings or matters that are disciplinable, and we make a negative recommendation that she and Mackenzie be disciplined. Why has that not happened? And why can that not happen?
This question, the SC has canvassed it. We spoke about it a lot of times. The standard operating procedure of IPID doesn't allow us to make a recommendation without the completion of the case. So when we make recommendation, is when the investigating officer says that everything is here in the docket, and you compile your report to DPP and the stakeholder, which will be EMPD or SAPS. So we do these reports when we finalize the matter, because the system, you must feed this recommendation to IPID system, electronic system, and it is signed by the provincial head that you have finalized the matter. So even when the auditors comes, they will say, in this matter, everything was done, and it was done on this date. So when you see our PDMs, after we have done our memorandum to DPP and SAPS, DPP might not be satisfied. The office was convinced that the matter is completed, but the DPP can say, no, Magagula, you have not yet finalized the matter. Go and do 1, 2, 3, 4. But already on our system, it will be finalized because we're convinced that everything was done. So I do not know if I answer your question. The predicament, even now when I live here, is because I can do the recommendation. But will my boss sign it because the standard operating procedure says that you must do recommendation when the matter is finalized.
I've not seen the prescript that you are referring to, but depending on the language, as presently advised, I feel that IPID is unduly constraining itself in this sense. If this is about the completion of investigations, I do not understand why you should tie EMPD investigations to investigations intended for the criminal process. If, on what you have done, you are of the view that enough is now in existence for purposes of pursuing a disciplinary process, why can't you say investigations are now complete insofar as the disciplinary process is concerned? And then you are able to fill in that electronic document and you are able to convince your superior to sign off on that. Are you perhaps not unduly constraining yourselves? Are you perhaps not interpreting the prescript you are referring to wrongly?
Yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner, that as soon as we establish that there is a prima facie case, we should
that is exactly my point.
Yeah.
Practically, you may easily establish that there is a prima facie case for purposes of the disciplinary process.
Yes.
Which means that with regard to that process, the investigation is complete. So why can't you close that off, seek your superior's signature, and fill in that form? And where it says, is the investigation complete? You say yes. Why can't you do that? Sitting here now, I don't understand why not, unless you explain it.
And maybe to add to that if it's quite conceivable that you may, I know you have just said to us that you have means of getting these witnesses, additional witnesses that have disappeared, but it's conceivable that you never ever find them. And the way you describe your standard operating procedure and your reasons for not having recommended yet disciplinary action to the EMPD, that could be the end of this case, because you never get those witnesses. And so you have officers where there's a prima facie case against them, which gets proven on a balance of probabilities, and in respect of whom your witness statements are irrelevant, right, for reasons that I've earlier discussed with you, but they actually walk scot-free because your standard operating procedure says until you've bedded everything together and you have a docket that goes to that's approved by the DPP, you may not recommend to the EMPD to institute disciplinary proceedings. Something is seriously wrong if that is what your standard operating procedure says or requires of you.
I agree.
But bear in mind that I say you may well be misreading that standard operating procedure. So do you want to comment on all this? I'm sure you still remember everything I said, and you remember what my co-commissioner, Commissioner Baloyi, has just said. Do you wish to comment on all that, please?
In terms of me maybe not understanding the standard operating procedure, I'll be saying it means that most of the caseworkers of IPID, if the point is that we are not understanding that standard operating procedure, including our boss who must sign the said recommendation, because it will be written, definitely so.
Yeah. You see, the simple point is this. what may have to be proved for purposes of the criminal case may not necessarily be the same as what needs to be proved in respect of the disciplinary process. So it just doesn't make sense that the two should be bound up together such that you cannot move on this one, even though everything that needs to be satisfied has been satisfied. It just doesn't make sense to bind them together like that. Do you get what I mean?
I get it.
Do you agree that you may possibly be misreading the standard operating procedure? I'm suggesting this to you not having read the procedure, but you accept that you may well, because otherwise,
I accept.
Otherwise, whoever framed it would have framed it very stupidly.
Yeah, I accept.
Thank you.
And do you accept, sorry, Ms.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you accept that if you have read it correctly, if what you're telling us is in fact what it is, then it's a major flaw in that standard operating procedures and it has to be reconsidered?
Yes.
So that it permits you to do what the chair is suggesting should be the way things are done.
Yes, I agree.
And
it will be fruitful.
Yeah, and we are not blaming you. We are not blaming, as we understand it, you are suggesting that this is how all of you operate, you know. Yeah. Ms. Sidlo, perhaps we should throw this one back at you for you to please follow up on the actual content and true reading of this procedure.
In fact, we've made a note. These are some of the documents when Mr. Kiafela Kai returns for the IPID stream. This would form part of his bundle.
Yes, yes.
To talk generally about IPID and the SOPs and any other regulatory instruments they have. However, although I'm hesitant to tell the commissioners this, we have tracked it down. It's an SOP dated 25th March 2019, but I won't put it to the witness. The witness hasn't been confronted with this document. It would be grossly unfair, but we will pick up the issue. And I suggest so, confident that it need not detain us regard being heard to the peculiarities of this particular case. Yes, it's still a live issue that must be answered in regard to the others. So if I may just deal with the witness, confining ourselves to this case, to address the very concern that the commissioners raise, that why could disciplinary processes not be initiated within EMPD regarding this Patfontein matter, and to determine whether failure to do so was caused by the delays on the part of IPID. The reading of the statement doesn't fully answer that question, but the reading of the docket, I think to a large extent does. So perhaps if I take the witness through those documents.
Yes, Ms. Sidlo.
Thank you.